Okay, so you're about to give a speech. Maybe it's a big informative one, maybe just an update to your team. And you know those first, 60 seconds, they feel critical, right? Because that's when you either hook them or, well, you lose them. We've all been there, sweating over the perfect opening.
Oh, absolutely. That opening anxiety is real. But the good news from the sources we looked at, these proven frameworks, is that it's not about luck. It's structure. We've basically boiled it down to the essential sequence. 4 elements in order that set you up for success. Think of this as the shortcut to nailing that opening, not just what you say, but crucially, when you say it.
Right, let's get straight into it. This deep dive is all about actionability. So the core framework, the foundation, says a great intro has 4 parts. They have to happen in this specific order. First, the hook. Second, the reveal. Third, credibility. And fourth, the preview. Get the order wrong, skip one, and the whole thing can kind of wobble. Okay, let's unpack that. Starting with step 1, the absolute crucial bit, the hook. The sources are pretty clear. Its main job is grabbing attention, sparking curiosity. And they even point to the best tool for the job.
Exactly. It's all about engagement right off the bat. You need to pull their minds in. Now, a lot of people might default to, a personal story, but the research actually leans towards something else for informative talks. A really well-chosen quotation, maybe a startling statistic, or perhaps a compelling universal truth, something that makes people sit up a bit.
Hmm. Okay, let me push back on that slightly. I mean, for today's audiences, wouldn't a dramatic personal story, the I climbed Everest and nearly didn't make it back type thing, grab attention better than, say, a quote?
That's a fair point, but it connects to why the sources emphasize the quote or stat.
Hmm.
It's about setting up the next step, the reveal. An anecdote can be powerful, sure, but it's often harder to twist into this sort of riddle that the sources insist on. And here's the rule that often separates the good from the great. The hook has to conceal the topic initially. You're setting up a small intellectual puzzle.
Ah, okay. So it's not just about being entertaining, it's about making them lean in and think, wait, why that stat? What's this really about?
Precisely. That little moment of, huh, or where is this going? That's golden. If you start talking about, I don't know, the global water crisis and your hook is a sad statistic about kids getting sick, well, the link's too obvious. You haven't really earned their focus. But if you start with some totally unexpected stat, maybe about copper prices, and everyone thinks commodities, and then you pivot, that surprise reveal is the punchline. It's satisfying.
Right. That makes sense. The sequence is key. Reveal the topic too early, and the hook just falls flat. It feels predictable. So the audience shouldn't actually know the specific subject until you deliberately unveil it in step 2, the reveal.
And that reveal needs to be sharp, crystal clear, like with the copper example. You hit them with the startling price stat, hook, let the curiosity build for a second, then bam, this volatility. It's entirely driven by new tech for desalinating water using way less energy. That's the topic, reveal. Suddenly the hook makes perfect sense in hindsight, the riddle's solved. That 1-2 punch is essential before moving on.
Okay, so we've done the hook reveal, got them curious, then gave them the answer. Now, step 3 is credibility. Why does this come now, before the roadmap? Aren't they already kind of hooked because they solved the riddle?
They're engaged, yes, but maybe not fully trusting you yet. You've got their attention, but now it's about why you are the right person to be talking about this. They're still sort of sizing you up, thinking, okay, interesting topic, but why should I listen to this speaker?
Mm-hmm.
This step is about intentionally, quickly building that trust.
And the sources mention 2 main ways to do that, right? Personal experience and research. But for an informative talk like this deep dive, there's a definite emphasis.
Absolutely. Personal experience can definitely add some color, some relatability, but for an informative speech, research isn't optional, it's mandatory. The audience expects, that you've dug deeper, that you bring verifiable external knowledge to the table. You need to show you've done the homework.
And this is where it gets really cool, pulling in ancient wisdom that's still spot on. We found this great quote from Cicero. He basically said, citing sources builds trust and is pleasurable to your audience. Pleasurable. It reframes research not just as proof, but as something the audience actually enjoys.
It taps right into why people listen to informative talks. They want solid knowledge backed up. But the practical question for you, the speaker, is how? How do you weave that in smoothly? You can't just read your bibliography. You've only got, maybe 15, 20 seconds for this step?
Exactly. Just saying, I did a lot of research feels weak. So how do we make demonstrating it pleasurable, like Cicero said, without eating up the whole intro?
Integration is the key, not just listing things. Instead of saying, I read 3 books, you drop one specific authoritative detail into your credibility statement. So for that water tech example, maybe something like, I've spent the last few months analyzing Aquatech Dynamics patents, actually comparing their yield data against the World Water Council benchmarks, which is why I feel confident discussing the economics here.
That's
See?
specific.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's much better. You're not just claiming expertise. You're giving a quick flash of the evidence. It proves the work was done. The audience just kind of relaxes and accepts you as the guide. That demonstration, that little glimpse of specific analysis, that's how you nail credibility and build trust fast. Skip it, and you might find the audience questioning every point you make later on.
Okay, hook, reveal, credibility. Check, check, check. We've got them intrigued. They know the topic. They trust us. Now, the final piece. Step 4, the preview, the roadmap. This feels like the most straightforward part, maybe. But where do speakers tend to mess this up?
The biggest pitfall is probably vagueness or overlap, points that aren't really distinct. The core requirement here is simple but vital. Your main points need to be super clear, concise, and, well, separate things. Actually, this step is a great check for you on your speech structure. If you're struggling to list 3 distinct points here, the body of your talk might need work.
Ah, okay. So the preview isn't just for the audience's benefit. It forces the speaker to confirm their own logic. So for our water speech example, a bad preview would be like, first, the tech. Second, why the tech is good. Third, the future. Too blurry.
It's exactly. Way too blurry. It should be more like. So today we'll cover 3 specific areas. First, the actual material science behind this new system. Second, how its energy use stacks up against current methods. And third, the likely market challenges for this specific design. See, clear lanes, distinct topics, actionable.
Makes sense. And for delivering that preview clearly, the sources mention numbering, like explicitly saying first, second, third.
Yeah, that's definitely a solid tactic, especially if you feel the audience needs that extra structure, maybe in like a virtual presentation where it's easy to lose track. But the research also points to a more nuanced approach for really strong delivery. You don't always need the numbers. A skilled speaker can use the power of the pause, just a deliberate beat of silence after you announce each point. First, pause, the material science. Second, pause, the energy metrics. That silence lets each point land properly.
Right. It gives people a mental second to absorb it. It feels less like a list and more like a well-organized structure unfolding. Makes the audience feel smart, even. So, there you have it. The full sequence. Hook, the riddle, reveal the answer, credibility to the proof, and preview the map. Follow that, and you're set up for a really strong start.
And if you think about the bigger picture here, what's really striking is the psychology baked into this sequence. It's built for how people actually listen today. Notice you don't start with the map, the preview. No, the structure forces you to prioritize grabbing attention and building trust before you ask the audience to absorb the main content. It manages their state first.
Yeah, that sequencing, especially that rule about concealing the topic in the hook, that's the big takeaway for me. Your knowledge is critical, obviously, but the packaging, that initial puzzle you create, is just as vital as showing you've done the research later on.
Well put. It respects their attention, doesn't it? Makes them engage actively to solve the riddle, instead of just being a passive recipient of information dump.
So think about this. How many presentations have you sat through, maybe recently, where the speaker just skipped that riddle part, they put the topic right on slide 1, maybe even gave away the conclusion up front, and you could almost feel the room mentally check out. The content might have been fine, but the setup killed it. Give them the answer too soon.
Oh, and they have no reason to stick around for the journey. A powerful reminder that how you present is inseparable from what you present.
Absolutely. Well, that was a great deep dive into crafting that killer opening. Go build your riddle, show your work, and we'll talk to you next time.